As I ducked under the curtains and exited the bar, it was raining. It was mostly a drizzle, and the tiny raindrops felt cool upon my face. They felt nice in the lukewarm June heat. A fog rolled in, and the neon lights of the opposite side of the street were blurry. The night street felt full of mystery, probably because the fog covered much of our vision. Mayuko opened her umbrella, chasing after me. "Come on, get in." Eh? We were no longer young kids, a bit old to share an umbrella. Normally I would have been embarrassed, but I had drunk quite a bit. Every now and then, something like this could be nice too. Plus, the more I thought about it, I realized it was nothing to be embarrassed about. We'd been going out for 2 years already. Mayuko often spent the night at my place. That was the relationship we had. I nestled close to her shoulders and grabbed the umbrella handle. "Well then, what shall we do now?" "You're not going to spend the night?" Mayuko looked at me sweetly. I was weak to that look. My heart still rang like it did when we first met. "It's still a bit early. But the two of us together, alone, that's the most fun thing of all." I had nothing else to say. We made our way towards my apartment. The rain wet Mayuko's hair, and she smelt nice. After leaving downtown, we walked uphill, and our surroundings suddenly went dark. Most of the houses were surrounded by fences, and there were few streetlights. Plus, thanks to the rain and fog, it was hard to even see our own feet. We walked carefully, yet still we occasionally slipped in a puddle. I'd gone out straight from home, so I was wearing my sandals. The water splashed and soaked my feet. But tonight it was warm and felt good. We entered a narrow alley from the main street. A tall concrete fence rose at the end of the alley, and there was a single wooden door that you had to bend to fit through. It was probably a side entrance for a large mansion. My apartment was at the end of the road if you turned left there. The street lights that had been on when I left home were now out. Only the vending machine on the side of the road shone brightly, but it was somehow enough to see our surroundings. That was how thick the fog was. But I was relieved. It was just as Mayuko said. Your own home is the one place where you can be most comfortable. The feeling of relief once returning home was like nothing else, especially if it was with Mayuko. "When we get back, let's take a shower." I put my arm around her shoulder as we went to exit the alley. Then, "Whoa!" I suddenly screamed. My toes, poking out from my sandals, stepped on something. It felt soft and warm, and panicking, I jumped. "What's wrong?" Mayuko asked me, surprised. I think I stood on something. Maybe a kitten or something. "Wah, how sad." "Oh, that was my bad." I looked down at my feet as I spoke. There was something slightly larger than a mouse in the shallow puddle. Its body trembled violently, as though it were crawling around. Maybe I'd heard it by stepping on it. Then the fog dissipated and I clearly saw it. I was dumbfounded. It didn't have eyes, a mouth, nor feet. It was a long, flat, pale oval shape, like bamboo paste. For some reason, I associated it with Mayuko's body. It was just like a woman's skin. Part of it sparkled in the wet rain. I'd never seen a creature like that before. Hey, what's wrong? Mayuko noticed my gaze and looked down. She let out a small scream. What's that? I don't know. I shook my head. I thought it was creepy, but I wanted to know what it was. Not knowing what it was oddly scary. Plus, seeing it move around like that made me feel somewhat sad for it. Those were the feelings its movement inspired in me. What should we do? What do you mean? Can we just leave it like this? Yeah. Mayuko seemed to take an interest in it. She wasn't thoughtlessly grossed out by things, and I liked that about her. After thinking, I tried to grab it. Mayuko stopped me as I reached out. Stop! It might be dangerous. It's fine. And look, it's kinda cute. What's cute about it? But then... it cried out. Its voice was oddly affectionate. It conflicted with its creepy appearance. It's like a puppy. Seemed Mayuko felt sympathetic towards it as well. Come to think of it, she had a puppy as a child, and when it got old and died, she cried about it. I remember her speaking about that sometime. I hope it's not hurt. You should check. Yeah. I took out my handkerchief and scooped it up. It was soft, but it felt like it was steadily breathing. It really resembled smooth human skin. It didn't fight me, but wrapped itself up in the handkerchief. I made handles from it and slung it over my shoulder. Well, let's go. But then I suddenly came back to my senses. What's wrong? Mayuko jumped and clung to my arm. No, nothing, I answered. But I had definitely felt it. Someone staring at us in the dark. It must have been the liquor making me want to check for sure. We entered the road from the end of the alley and then reached my apartment. It was a new 2-story building. I lived on the first floor. By the door was the kitchen and unit bath, and further in, a single 6 tatami mat room. After going inside, I thought about what to do with the thing in my hand. There was nowhere to put it. My bed and kotatsu that doubled as a table took up most of the room. I used the bathroom every day, so there was no good either. I'd have to put it in the corner of the kitchen. I had a bucket, so I undid the handkerchief and put it in there. Then I put a large lid over it so it couldn't escape. There we go. I'm never using that lid again, Mayuko said from the room, laughing. Looking in her direction, I noticed the curtains had been left open. On the other side of the window sat a very normal, small garden. It was too dark to see anything, but it felt like somebody was looking at me, so I closed the curtains. The rails made a sound as I did. A voice cried out from the bucket. I went into the kitchen and removed the lid. Maybe I was imagining things, but it didn't look well. How's things? Did you get hurt after all? Mayuko also stood up and came over to look into the bucket. I don't think that's it. Maybe it's hungry. Maybe it wants some water. We did find it in a wet place after all. That was it. I filled the bucket to the brim with water from the tap. I thought the chlorine might be toxic, but it seemed happy and jumped around. Mayuko seemed to be right. Looking at it, it possessed a strange charm, enough to call it cute. As we watched it for a while, I was suddenly overcome by a strange feeling. What's wrong? Mayuko seemed to have noticed my face. What? Looking at it, I faltered. I want to eat it. This? Strange, right? But it's true. I want to eat it. What are you saying? Mayuko covered her mouth as she screamed. You get me, right? Yeah. I've started to think it looks really tasty. Right? I had no idea why. But the more I looked at it, the more delicious it looked. It twisted around, as though it were saying, "Eat me." I couldn't stand it any longer. I wanted to eat it, but I refrained. I must have been losing my mind, wanting to eat something like that. I've got to be hungry, that's all, I said in a loud voice, trying to convince myself. If I didn't, I wouldn't have been able to repress my urges. That's why I'm thinking such strange things. That's gotta be it. I just gotta eat something. Unfortunately, my fridge was empty. I'm gonna go out and grab something. Mayuko was still looking inside the bucket. Don't look at it until I get back. I put the lid back on the bucket. Yeah. Mayuko looked a little worried, but she quietly returned to the room and sat down. Come back quickly, okay? No worries. I hurried out the door. At the nearby convenience store, I filled my basket with whatever I could get my hands on. Canned food, cup and ramen, everything. Anything that could be eaten quickly. But still, I couldn't contain myself. I wanted to eat that thing. Suddenly, I grew worried. How was Mayuko doing? Worried, I hurried back to the apartment. When I went inside, Mayuko jumped at me. What's wrong? Are you okay? I was so scared. Don't leave me alone like that ever again. Stay with me, always. Did something happen? No, nothing. But, she said and sighed. Being alone with that is like I'll forget all about you. Seriously? Maybe we really should get rid of it. No. She wasn't making any sense. But Mayuko looked like she might die if she was separated from that thing. Plus, I honestly didn't want to get rid of it either. It was like I wanted it to be by my side always. It was strange for me to think that. I spoke cheerfully, trying to shake off my worries. Anyway, let's eat. I opened the canned food, boiled some water, and made the cup ramen. Ramen as you were sobering up was delicious, but today I was especially hungry and ate 3 of them. I demolished the canned food as well. Mayuko didn't eat very much. Are you feeling unwell? Watching you eat is enough to make me feel full as well. She smiled. Seeing that smile made me remember what I'd forgotten until that moment. That Mayuko was here with me. Here in my room. That was what made me happiest of all. This was no time to be messing around with something strange. Tomorrow I really should get rid of it. Shall we hit the sack then? Yeah. We got into bed. But we didn't feel like fooling around. We just lay there, together. I muttered. Still, I wonder just what that thing is. Mayuko didn't answer. When I looked over, she was quietly breathing in her sleep. But I still couldn't fall asleep. Every now and then, I could hear that thing splashing in the kitchen. I didn't feel worried though. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching me. On the other side of the closed curtain. I jumped up at the sound of my alarm clock. Sunlight filtered through the curtains. When I opened the window, it was sunny outside. Mayuko was gone. Looking closer, I realized I was about to be late. I quickly got changed and headed out for work. I was busy all day, and once I was done with overtime, I returned home and spaced out for a while. During the night, I finally remembered that thing. I went into the kitchen and opened the lid. It seemed to lift its head a little and then chirped at me. Hearing that voice, it felt wrong to get rid of it. The water levels had gone down, so I put some more in. Its happiness was so cute. I see. Feels nice, huh? I smiled. Several sunny days passed, breaking up the rainy season. I was so busy with work that I had no chance to see Mayuko. Seeing as the weather was so nice, I was hoping we could at least go on a date, but there was no time to ask. Plus, Mayuko didn't contact me. She said she was busy with overtime during the accounting period, so I didn't contact her either. Although, it would be more correct to say that I simply forgot. I just watched that thing the whole time. I came to understand various things about it. It didn't like light, and when sunlight streamed through the window, it lost all vigor and curled up. When you made it dark and gave it water, it instantly jumped around happily. It was just like a sea slug, but without the creepiness. Rather, I came to feel rather attached to it. At some point, the only thing I looked forward to was returning home to watch it. I darkened the room. I even forgot about calling Mayuko. I wasn't in the mood for it. But there was one strange thing. Every now and then, something would wake me up during the night, like eyes on me. I'd never felt that before. It was like somebody was standing by my pillow. Just in case, one day, I put some hair in between the door and the window. When I checked in the morning, the hair had fallen to the ground. Someone was definitely sneaking into my room. But my room showed no signs of disarray. So why were they doing it? Because of you? I asked it. Of course, it didn't answer me. It innocently jumped around in the bucket. That was more than enough for me, but I also couldn't help feeling vaguely anxious. Then, a week passed. Night fell, and with it, a heavy rain. I watched over it again after I got home from work. That alone was fun. Those initial feelings of wanting to eat it now seemed like a dream. Then, somebody knocked on the door. I was so wrapped up in looking at the thing that I couldn't be bothered to answer it. "It's open," I said. But there was no answer. The odd silence bothered me, so I opened the door. Standing there was a man. He wore an old, shoddy black cape over his head, and I couldn't see his face very well, but his eyes appeared to be sad. "Is it doing okay?" the man said. "What are you talking about?" I pretended, even though I knew very well what he was talking about. Why did he come here? "Please give it back. You don't need it." "No," I said straight out. The person who had been watching me all this time was undoubtedly this man. I didn't want to be separated from that thing anymore. Plus, if this man owned it from the beginning, why didn't he come back to get it then? It was too late now. I glared at him. He sighed. Then he started speaking. "I honestly didn't want us to meet. We don't like to mix with humans. But it seems you've been charmed by that thing. I can't ignore it any longer. Please, just quietly give it back. If you don't, you will die. His quiet voice in the falling rain sounded like the mutterings of a shinigami. But still, I couldn't accept it. I don't understand what's going on, and hearing such a thing so suddenly puts me on the spot. I found it, so it's mine. No, it's not. I cannot tell you why. But someone's life depends on it, so please, give it back. He spoke gently, yet his request was desperate. It annoyed me somewhat. If you want it that badly, then explain it to me properly. What is it? And why is it important? If you can't do that, I'm not handing it over. He fell silent for a moment. Finally, he opened his mouth. If you understand what it is, misfortune will befall you. What do you mean? But he didn't reply. His acting like he knew something I didn't pissed me off. If you're not going to answer, then leave. As I spoke, I opened the door beneath the sink behind me. If he was going to attack, I intended to fight back with my kitchen knife. That was how much I cared about it. I didn't want anything to take it away. Maybe he sensed that. The man slowly shook his head. Seems it can't be helped. Well then, please follow me and bring that with you. He didn't seem to be hostile. Fine. I put the thing in a convenience store bag and followed him outside. As soon as we stepped out, a heavy rain immediately began to fall. But I didn't return to get an umbrella. The only thing I was concerned with was what that man was going to show me. The road curved, and we reached a place with a high fence. It was where we first found the thing. The lights from the vending machine lit up the area. I had a bad feeling about it. The man opened a small wooden door in the fence. Did he live in the mansion beyond it? After you. The man held his hand out and told me to go inside first. I hesitated. But I went through the door. Beyond it wasn't the mansion I was expecting. It was pitch black, and I couldn't see a thing. The man lit an old-fashioned lamp. A dim light filtered out from it. There were stairs with a low roof, like the entrance to a subway. Only they seemed to be made of natural stone. Down they went, on and on, to the bottom of the earth. The sound of wind blowing roared. Watch your step. I followed the man down the long stairs. We must have walked down hundreds of steps. Then, finally, I could hear what sounded like a river. The man stopped. It's flat from here on out. I proceeded carefully. Suddenly, my field of vision opened up. A large tunnel appeared in the lamplight. The stairs continued by the side of it. The stones were packed like bricks. The roof was high above us. A canal ran through the middle of the tunnel. The dark water echoed loudly. There seemed to be quite a lot of it. Where are we? The underground sewers, the man answered. These were used over 100 years ago, but now people have forgotten that they exist. We made our way down towards the end of the tunnel. Suddenly, my foot bumped into something. A chill ran through me. Some large animal bones lay scattered on the ground. Next thing I knew, various people were sitting at spots along the wall. They didn't look at us even as we passed. They were dressed in rags and hunched over something, eating it. The sound they made was gross. The bones were perhaps the remains. What on earth? The man stopped me before I could continue. Be quiet, or they'll notice you. No idea what was going on, I closed my mouth and followed him. A short while later, we encountered a hole in the side of the tunnel. The man went inside. Inside was a large room, like a basement. A lone old man sat in the middle. He was dressed in cloth and seemed somewhat dignified. "Why did you bring that topsider down here?" the old man asked in a harsh tone. He said he wanted to understand. That seemed to be enough. The old man nodded and turned to me. "We do not enjoy fighting. If you hand that over, we will tell you whatever you want to know, although it won't be of much use to you." "Then explain. What is this thing?" I held up the bag with the thing inside. "That is... It's called dragon flesh," the old man answered. "It's an animal? Perhaps you could call it that. But it's not of this earth." "What do you mean?" "It falls from the heavens with the rain," the old man said indifferently. "It is food gifted to us from the heavens. That is dragon flesh. No matter how much you eat, it never decreases in size. It consumes water and returns to its original state. That is the type of creature it is. So that was why I wanted to eat it. Since long ago, we have shunned life on the surface for certain reasons, and we fled down here. At first, we ate rats and other such creatures, but then our food supplies dwindled. That was when it happened. The dragon flesh flowed in with the rainwater, and we fought each other to eat it. No matter how much we ate, it stayed the same size. It was like a blessing from above. But the longer this went on, we discovered we were unable to consume anything else. If we ate anything other than the dragon flesh, we would starve and die. I looked inside the bag. The dragon flesh innocently moved around as it always did. But now, It just looked creepy to me. Our numbers have slowly been increasing, and the only way to support these numbers is to find the dragon flesh. It's extremely rare and doesn't often flow down here, so when it rains, we go above and search for the dragon flesh. Unfortunately, you were the one who found it first. We did not want to fight over it, so we held back, but we can no longer do that. Someone is on the verge of death. Please hand the dragon flesh over to us. The old man held out his hand. I took a step back. "That's strange," I said, raising my doubts. "You said the number of people has been increasing, but if they never ate the dragon flesh to start with, then everything would be fine. Plus, the amount of food doesn't decrease as you eat it, so can't you just split it up amongst yourselves? You should only need one in that case." "You are a smart man, unfortunately," the old man said, shaking his head as though he'd given up. "But one piece of dragon flesh can only be eaten by a single person. The first person who partook of it claims it. That is why we need your dragon flesh." So then, if I had eaten it that time... Hang on. You're telling me that someone has already eaten from this? The old man slowly turned around. Then I noticed it. A figure hunched over in the darkness behind him. There was no mistaking it. "Mayuko!" Mayuko turned to look at me. She was nothing but skin and bones. "We need the dragon flesh for her," the old man said. "I'm sorry, I ate it," Mayuko said, her voice hoarse. "I was looking at it after you went out, and I just couldn't help myself, so I tried some. It was delicious. I had no idea anything could taste so good. I grew scared and stopped at one mouthful, but it was too late. Even after I returned home, I didn't feel like eating anything else. Plus, I can't eat anything else. I just throw it up. So I went to your house over and over just to eat it. So it was Mayuko who snuck into my house late at night. It no doubt worked on her quickly," the old man said pitifully. "Once someone has taken a bite, it no longer works on anyone else. That's why you have been fascinated with it, but that's where it ends. This is what I mean by our increasing numbers. Those who partake of the dragon flesh must join us down here." I didn't want to think about it. Mayuko was going to become one of those people hunched in the tunnel? "Mayuko, let's go home," I screamed. "You can't stay here. Return with me to the world above." But Mayuko looked sadly down to the ground. "She is unable to leave here now," the old man said quietly. "Once you have eaten the dragon flesh, the light from the sun will kill you. And if you don't continue eating it, then you will die of starvation. If you truly want to continue your life with her, then you must discard the above world and live here, partaking of the dragon flesh. There is no other way." "That can't." I didn't want to agree with him, but I knew what the old man was saying was true. I wanted anything but to live the rest of my life down here. But I didn't want to part from Mayuko either. Confused, all I could do was give up, I thought. But still, I was unable to leave. I called out to her. "Mayuko?" She looked up. She looked at me as though depending on me. I couldn't bear it any longer. But then, the dragon flesh inside the bag cried out. The moment she heard its voice, Mayuko's eyes changed. They were the eyes of a starved beast. She jumped up and snatched the bag from my hands. She ran back to the corner of the room, looked at me as if waiting for me to snatch it back, and then bit into the dragon flesh. Her face grew more and more satisfied. Her expression was awful to look upon. Mayuko was no longer human. She had become something else entirely. I stepped back in fear. She must have understood how I felt. Mayuko's expression changed, and she looked sad. Then she whispered, "Goodbye." It was like for that one moment, her human heart returned. But it was just for a moment, and then she went back to eating the dragon flesh. She devoured it greedily. I knew nothing could be done to help her. "Goodbye," I said, but she didn't turn around and remained hunched over the dragon flesh, biting into it. It echoed like the sound of my own soul being torn into two. The man led me back out through the tunnel and up the stairs. Our footsteps echoed hollowly. As we passed through the wooden door, a heavy rain had begun to fall. "I don't think we'll see each other again," he said in a kind voice. "Please forget about everything, both us and her." I nodded, but when I saw the man turn around to leave, I was again filled with regret. Once he closed that door, I would never see Mayuko again. "Wait!" I grabbed his cape. "Take me with you. Whatever happens, I have to be with Mayuko." The man's eyes glinted with anger beneath his cape. "You still don't get it, do you?" he said, restraining himself. "We are no longer human. The old man is the only one of us to reach that age and retain reason. Everyone else barely even recognizes that they're alive. The same thing will eventually happen to me as well. Do you think that she wants you, the person she loves, to see her looking as wretched as that? That's fine. I don't care if I'm no longer human." "That's not it!" The man screamed angrily. "Did you notice the bones scattered everywhere?" He didn't mean. The elder didn't say anything because he felt bad for you. Why? The dragon flesh has a lifespan as well. One day, it will run out. Then, starvation will set in. After that, there is only one thing we can consume, and that is human flesh. A chill ran down my spine. You mean you start eating each other? And that'll happen to Mayuko too? Unfortunately. The man cast his eyes down. One day, we will have to kill her, so that she doesn't eat her friends. I had no words. Our fate is decided the moment we taste the dragon flesh. The only saving grace is that one day, we will also forget that. That's why you should also forget about her. That is the only thing you can do for her now. The man lowered his head and stepped beneath the door as I stood there in shock. The door closed with a creak. Rain dropped onto my face like a waterfall. I couldn't tell whether it was actually the rain or tears. I returned to my apartment. The bucket remained in the corner of the kitchen. The dragon flesh living inside that bucket felt like a distant memory. And Mayuko. There was nothing left here now. I was suddenly overcome with violent regret. Why did I pick the dragon flesh up that time? No, I should have eaten it first. Then, this wouldn't have happened to Mayuko. Mayuko! I fell to my knees on the floor. The times I spent with her flashed through my head. I hit the floor with my fist, my chest tightening. I continued hitting it. But then, true fear ran through me. While thinking of Mayuko, I was still drawn in by the dragon flesh. Next thing I knew, I was sitting on the floor in my wet clothes, bent over, staring into space. Just like the people underground. Like I was no longer human. I no longer felt like doing anything, like thinking of anything. I just stayed in my apartment the whole time. Several days passed, and the rainy season lifted. The sunlight filtering through the curtains brought me back, and I stepped outside. I wandered over to the alley. The wooden door was gone. There was nothing but a concrete fence. It wasn't painted over. It looked like there had never been anything there to begin with. They had probably moved their entrance. No doubt, so I couldn't find them again. Mayuko was probably the one who asked them to do so. It wasn't like I would have been able to return there anyway. A vacant smile found its way to my lips. When it rains at night, I leave the curtains open. When I do, sometimes a pale, vague face appears outside in the darkness. It's Mayuko. It's not the rain on her face though. It's tears. Mayuko is crying. All I can do is cry as well. There's nothing else I can do. Still, I leave the windows open so that we can keep crying. But I know I'm not crying because of Mayuko. It's because I want to confirm that I'm still human.